And now, from the CFTK-TV studios, this is Open Connection with your host, Robert Pictou.
Welcome to Open Connection. I'm your host, Robert Pictou. Our show today comes to you from the traditional and unceded territory of the Tsimshian people. He started his career in the energy sector at the age of 16 as a technical apprentice. 35 years later, he is the current president and CEO of LNG Canada. We begin today's Open Connection with this summer's announcement of Canada's LNG's availability to the world market with Chris Cooper.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Chris Cooper, LNG Canada's president and CEO. On behalf of everybody at LNG Canada, I want to thank you all for making the trip here today. We're very pleased and honoured to welcome you to our beautiful facility, especially with weather like this. I want to extend a special thanks to Premier Eby and to Minister Dix and members of their staff for also taking the time to visit with us. I want to also express our deep gratitude to the Haisla Nation, in whose traditional territory we're gathered and where LNG Canada calls home. Also thanks to the District of Kitimat and to Mayor Phil Gamuth, who is also here with us today, for the enduring welcome, the support, the collaboration, and the community have shown to LNG Canada and its workers in our time here. It's hard to believe that 1 month ago, on June the 30th, on Canada Day weekend, I stood here and LNG Canada reached a very important milestone. We loaded our first cargo of made in BC LNG onto a carrier bound for export markets overseas. We've since sent 3 more LNG cargoes on their way to markets abroad, and as you can see behind me, another carrier is now preparing to load our 5th cargo of LNG. With early operations underway, this is a special time for our company and our 5 joint venture partners, local communities, and for First Nations, and indeed for British Columbia and for Canada. It represents the launch of a new industry in this province, one that's already provided thousands of jobs for individuals, myriad training and employment opportunities for young workers, economic and social benefits for people, and of course, new revenues for governments. It took many years of dedication and hard work by thousands of people to reach this point. In many respects, our timing couldn't be better. The world is hungry for reliable supplies of high quality, responsibly produced, lower carbon energy. Countries around the world want to decarbonize their economies, and they're looking to LNG and to Canada to help them in that transition. BC's nascent LNG industry adds much needed diversity to Canada's export markets. We're also demonstrating, again at a time when it's really needed, that British Columbians and Canadians are capable of building really big things. And we're capable of doing even more. With other LNG projects in BC on the way, such as our neighbours over the road, Cedar LNG, the first Indigenous-led Haisla project, and possibly with LNG Canada's Phase 2 expansion that we're currently in serious consideration on. So finally, with this trajectory and in continued collaboration with our industry colleagues, Canadian workers, local communities, and of course First Nations, and our provincial and federal governments, Canada has an exceptionally strong opportunity to become a top 5 LNG exporting nation, and that will go a long way to help Canada achieve an even more ambitious but attainable goal, to become a world energy superpower. I'd now like to hand over proceedings to the Honourable David Eby, Premier of British Columbia. Thank you.
We've been visiting with construction workers who are working on Train 2 right now, with operations people who are running Train 1, helping to load this ship behind us. And the enthusiasm for this project, the skill and energy of the workers that made this possible is world-class. We have the best construction teams. We have the best engineers. And we see as well in these teams people that have experience from around the globe coming to British Columbia to share their talents here, something that's always made our province great and strong. I am so excited about this project and what it means for Canada, what it means for British Columbia. At a time when we are under direct attack from the President of the United States with clear intention to cause harm to our economy, an approach that makes no sense to those of us who are Canadian and American and understand our close ties with our friends south of the border. The message, though, we receive is clear. Canada's got to stand on our own 2 feet. We've got to build for Canadians, and we've got to make sure that we're a country that can look after ourselves. And part of that means using our resources and getting to markets other than the United States. And there is no better example of a project at the scale that we need, at the time that we need, than this project right here.
Open Connection will be right back after these messages. And now, from the CFTK-TV studios, this is Open Connection with your host, Robert Pictou.
Thank you for staying with us. Around 550 billion cubic meters of natural gas were exported as liquefied natural gas in 2024, just under 15% of the global's natural gas consumption. Given the high energy requirements to liquefy and transport gas over long distances, LNG tends to have higher emissions than natural gas that is produced close to where it is consumed. Let us return to the conversation as Premier Eby shares how LNG Canada's emissions differ to those in the world market.
And the thing that I really like about the LNG Canada project is not just that it gets us to diverse markets, is not just that it provides jobs and employment for British Columbians and for Canadians, but that we're doing it in a way that gets our resources to market that is responsible and that answers some of the big challenges of our time. How do we balance and ensure that we're looking after the environment as well as creating employment? How do we make sure we're addressing climate change and also use our resources to build prosperity so we can deliver the services that people need? This project answers those questions. The LNG that comes from this site is 60% lower carbon than the average LNG plant in the world. It is 40% better in terms of carbon content than the best plants in the world, which means that when we're shipping to Japan, to Korea, to Malaysia, to China, it means that these countries are able to meaningfully reduce their carbon pollution and their carbon footprint, and that is very meaningful in these markets. I was on a trade mission to Japan, to Korea, to Malaysia, and as part of that mission, I met with major proponents of this project, with KOGAS, with Mitsubishi, with Petronas. And in those conversations, each one of those proponents underlined how important it was to them that this project was able to be reliable, that this project was able to provide the energy that they needed, and that they were on world markets to find, but that it was able to do it in a way that helped these countries meet their own climate goals. By working together, by reaching out internationally, Canada can be part of the solution by bringing our resources to market. I also want to address an issue that a number of the workers here have raised with me. It could be contractors, it could be construction workers, it could be people working on the site. It's the question of LNG Canada Phase 2. We're really excited about the potential of LNG Canada Phase 2. We're in active conversations with LNG Canada, project proponents, as well as with the federal government about LNG Canada Phase 2. And we're hopeful to be able to get the company to a final investment decision. We think there's no better value proposition for the project proponents than what we offer here. It'll bring huge benefits for Canadians and for British Columbians in terms of employment and revenues to support things like healthcare. And we think that we know that we are able to compete with the rest of the world in terms of low carbon, reliability, and just overall quality of product. And so I'm very much looking forward to be able to come back here to make the announcement about LNG Canada Phase 2. And I want to thank all of the workers who made it possible for us to even be having that conversation. I'm sure there were lots of long nights. I'm sure there were lots of long days. Many of you may be away from home. I know there are a lot of local folks here, but a lot of people away from home to help build this thing. And your sacrifice and your efforts mean increased prosperity for all Canadians at a time when we really need it. So thanks everybody for your work. It's a great honor to be here. I want to thank Mayor Phil for welcoming us to Kitimat. Mayor Phil reminds me again and again that Kitimat represents the merger of two things. One is ensuring our resources get to market, jobs and the economy, but also the best that British Columbia has to offer in terms of wildlife, nature. You can't see, but behind the cameras, I'm looking at the aluminum smelter here in Kitimat. At the time, the largest private sector investment in Canadian history. Now to be standing here, the proud leader of a province, of a government that supported the workers in delivering the largest private sector investment in Canadian history, again here in Kitimat. I want to congratulate you, Mayor Phil. I want to congratulate all the workers and the company on this momentous occasion and everything that you've done and everything that we hope we're going to be able to do together on phase 2. One of the remarkable things about this project was the work that was done by the project proponents, by LNG Canada, to ensure that the local community benefited in different ways. And one of the ways that the Haisla identified that they wanted to participate was not through a benefits agreement, was not through just a stream of revenue. They actually wanted to participate as project proponents. They wanted their own LNG project that they could do in the way that was consistent with their values. And so that resulted in LNG Canada working with them to deliver gas to the Cedar LNG project. That is a project that is going to employ 100 people at that LNG site. It's just down the water here. The Haisla are doing it in a very unique way. It's through a floating platform. So when the project's complete, the platform will be able to be dragged away for recycling. And in the meantime, it'll create literally billions of dollars of benefit for the Haisla and for British Columbians. That project couldn't exist without the LNG Canada project, and so they're very closely tied together. And it's one of the ways this project is benefiting the broader community.
Open Connection will be right back after these messages. And now, from the CFTK-TV studios, this is Open Connection with your host, Robert Pictou.
Welcome back to Open Connection. This past June, Premier Eby set off on a trade mission to Asia to showcase BC's strength and to foster relationships that will enhance new trade and investment in vital sectors. These include the growing demand in Asia for clean energy, BC wood and forestry products, technology, LNG, and essential minerals. Let us return the conversation as Eby gives us an update of that trade mission.
This project in particular is a very good example of the role that British Columbia can play in helping solve one of the big challenges of our time, which is climate change. When I was visiting Korea and Japan and Malaysia, the governments there, the companies there, all recognized the need to reduce their carbon footprint. They wanted to drive down their carbon emissions. And one of the pieces that they really appreciated about the LNG Canada project and about the gas that's produced in British Columbia is the very low emissions profile. We've done a lot of work with industry to reduce methane leaks, a notorious issue worldwide in the industry. Our methane emissions in British Columbia are some of the lowest in the world because we've worked together to do that. But beyond that, the product that we produce here and the way in which it's produced gives it a carbon footprint that is among the lowest in the world, 60% better than the average and 40% better than the best plants in the world. And that it means a great deal in countries that are committed to reducing their carbon footprint. We're displacing higher carbon LNG that they would buy from elsewhere. It means they're able to meet their carbon emissions. And the best part is we're price competitive. Because it doesn't have to go through the Panama Canal, because we're much closer to Asia, we're able to deliver a better product that's lower carbon, that's cost competitive, and that's reliable. And that's why they're interested. And that's part of the solution and part of the response that British Columbia can offer, because we believe as well that here in BC, we've got to lower our carbon footprint. And we want to be supporters of governments around the world that see the responsibility to address climate change. We had an event last night that caused experts in this area to be concerned that we might be seeing some tsunami activity potentially as far away from the original site of the earthquake as British Columbia. The approach that's taken by emergency response, both within the province and at local government, is to be as cautious as possible in these circumstances. We get very little lead time for tsunamis in terms of giving people notice. The sensors that are out in the water, it's a very short period of time between when a wave hits those sensors and we're able to notify people to get out of harm's way. So a precautionary approach was taken. People were advised to get off of the beach, get off of coastal areas, and stay away from the water. The good news is we didn't see any significant impact here in British Columbia, but the system did work as expected. And I'm very glad that the province, local governments, regional districts all work together to ensure people are safe. It was a good trial run for us. So if we do see a major event in the future, we know we have a system that should work to deliver that warning to British Columbians as we all intend. Certainly, our expectation is always that law enforcement advises British Columbians about what risks are out there and what issues they're dealing with. And generally speaking, I'll say law enforcement does quite a good job of that. The reason for our government advancing these funds to law enforcement in the province around human trafficking is to give them the support they need to make a meaningful impact to keep people safe in our province, and particularly vulnerable women who may be trafficked in British Columbia. With the additional resources, we're hopeful that law enforcement, both RCMP and municipal forces, will be able to both make a meaningful difference in terms of the safety of women in the province, but also ensure that the public is aware of the issue and how they can help combat human trafficking in their own home communities. The reason for emphasizing softwood as an issue that needs to be on the table in discussions between the federal government here in Canada and the President of the United States, who's leading these negotiations for the U.S., is that our softwood lumber industry has been under attack from the U.S. for the better part of almost 2 generations now, with unfair duties that Canadians have been fighting in trade tribunals and have actually had a meaningful material impact on the availability of affordable building materials for Americans. So because this has been going on for so long, there's always the risk that it's like, well, it's built into the industry, people have adjusted to it, this isn't the priority. The priority is auto parts, because that's the sector that's being attacked right now. And certainly auto parts are important. It's important for Ontario and Quebec that conversation take place. But simply because the softwood lumber unfair duties have been happening for much longer, that they were the canary in the coal mine in terms of this protectionist approach from the president that's going to increase costs for Americans and ultimately cost jobs in the U.S., simply because it's been happening for a long time, it doesn't mean it should be ignored. In fact, some of the unique characteristics of the softwood issue make it a great candidate for early resolution. The $8 billion in duties that's sitting in a bank account. That money could be used to grow the market for Americans and Canadians. The fact that stability in the market would lead to increased profits and jobs for American companies, as well as stability for Canadian jobs and for families here at home. And so there's a potential for a win-win here. We just want to make sure it's on the radar of the Prime Minister and that it's not just assumed, well, this has been a long time issue and we're not going to be able to resolve it. Because in fact, there appears to be a moment that we could resolve the softwood issue if the President is looking for a shared win here, which I certainly hope he is.
Open Connection will be right back after these messages. And now, from the CFTK-TV studios, this is Open Connection with your host, Robert Pictou.
Greenwashing refers to a misleading marketing tactic in which companies fabricate a sense of environmental responsibility. They do this by making ambiguous, misleading, or outright false statements about their products, services, or policies, aiming to seem more eco-friendly than they truly are. In this final segment of Open Connection, Eby responds to critics that state LNG is greenwashing.
Well, I think that the moment that we face is one where we need to ensure that we're doing our part, both for the country as a whole, as well as our major trading partners, to ensure that we're driving down carbon emissions. We could leave Japan and Korea and Malaysia to rely on imports from Qatar, from the United States, from other parts of the world. It would require longer journeys by ship, resulting in more marine emissions. It would be higher carbon LNG, resulting in more carbon pollution. And then here at home in Canada, we would have fewer jobs, less resources for public services. Japan, Malaysia, Korea, China are not eliminating fossil fuels overnight. There is a long tail of demand for LNG that we expect to see well into the future. If they are using LNG, they should be using the lowest carbon LNG in the world. They should be using Canadian LNG that's produced ethically, that promotes environmental protection, as well as high quality labor standards and safety standards. And we can play a role in that. Everybody knows that we have to transition away from fossil fuels, but in the meantime, we should be using the lowest carbon fossil fuels possible, and that's what's represented by LNG Canada, by Cedar LNG, which is a fully electrified plant, which will be a near zero emission plant. It's incredible what we're producing here in Canada, and we're helping move the world towards a low carbon future, which is what all Canadians and British Columbians want. I mean, tsunamis are such a challenging emergency for the province to face because of the uncertainty about it. To be blunt, when I heard about it, it's so far away. It's in Russia. It's halfway around the world from where we are. What are we really going to see in British Columbia? Had to overcome that feeling that maybe people were overreacting a little bit, and the other piece of it is, and what was underlined for me in the briefings that I received, is just how unpredictable these can be. That the seismologists and the people who are expert in this area try their best to predict what the impacts will be, but we could actually see a significant impact here in British Columbia, and people need to be prepared. That's why the decline in housing starts. I mean, June was actually a remarkable month for housing starts compared with June last year. But I do see that in some segments of the market, we are seeing a decline here in British Columbia and Ontario as well. Let me say this. We're not going back to the old model of doing things. Under the previous government, the idea was if you welcome foreign investment into real estate, everybody's going to benefit. And what we saw was that real estate prices became completely detached from what people are actually able to earn in British Columbia, meaning that young people were priced out of the housing market. And those prices are incredibly sticky. And so we have seen hundreds of % of increase in housing prices and a complete disconnect from the ability to afford housing, what people can earn in the province. So that's the reason for the foreign buyer tax. That's the reason for the speculation tax. Our priority is housing for British Columbians first. And I accept that the old model of doing things is not working anymore. And frankly, I say good. But what is not good is we still need to build housing. Our population is growing. People need homes. We need to build for the domestic market. If you want to see what the old market did, look at the Curve building project in the west end of the city of Vancouver, a site that started at $16 million with local developers, ended up being sold for $69 million after international money got involved. That was completely stupid and disconnected from what the local market could support. Now the building is built, but it's empty because no one can afford to move into it. We're not going back to that. And so I am committed, the housing minister is committed to working with the building industry, with developers, to find ways, to find models that are going to build housing for British Columbians, but we're not going to do it under the old way of doing things, which is having foreign money, speculation money coming in to build 500 square foot shoeboxes that don't support families. We're going to make sure we're building housing for families, for Canadians. That's what we're going to do. And if foreign capital can help build housing for Canadians and British Columbians, great. But if the foreign capital is just going to build housing that is going to sit empty in the middle of downtown Vancouver like the Curve building, well, forget about it. That model is dead.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Open Connection. The greatest distance in the existence of man is not from here to there, but the connection from his mind and heart. If we can conquer that distance, we can soar like an eagle and realize our immensity within. I'm Robert Pictou.